Okay, so back to the mixer, and now we're going to look at a couple of really important aspects of the mixing process. And these are leveling and gain staging prior to the mix. Now, when we've imported all of our audio files into Logic, let's go back to the main window. We've got our audio files all imported, and by default, Logic sets the level fader for each newly created track to unity gain, which is right here, 0.0. Here we go. Now, one has to bear in mind that if everything in this mix is set to unity gain, we are going to experience overloading, as we can see right here on, first of all, the drum bus, as well as on the master bus. So let's get over to the mixer and we'll have a look here. So I'm set to display all. So all tracks are being displayed. And down here is our main stereo out. I'm going to play back a section of the track, just with the music, not the vocals, and let's see what's happening in the master stereo out. Okay, so there's quite a lot of overload and clipping right here, and you can see that the drum bus is actually clipping. And if I was to play more of the track, you'd see that the keyboards and pretty much all of the elements are just out of place. So what I generally do before I get down to mixing is I reduce the volume fader on each and every track by 6 dB. Besides, of course, the stereo and master faders. So first thing I do is I use the key Command A to select all. I then simply drag these down until you can see right here we're at -2.5. I want to see -6. Okay, and this is usually my starting point. Okay, I then click on a single fader and I'll use the Option click function to reset that, and Option click here to reset this. So these are back to 0 dB or unity gain. And this is an important part of the whole process. Always make sure that both of these faders are set to unity gain or 0 dB. Okay, you might inherit a mix from someone or take over a mix, and this is set down here or this is set up here. Always reset them to unity gain. That's where you want those faders to be. Right, so that's the first step. I've pulled everything down by 6 decibels, and let's play that back now and let's see what the meters are showing. So as you can see, we've created about 5.6 dB of headroom. Well, I mean, it's going to get more intense. If we were to add the vocals in, we'd definitely be seeing a readout closer to 0 dB. We might even see some clipping. But in principle, this is a good starting point. Okay, so now that I've got an overall basic level set up without any clipping, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on individual groups to get those levels set and start processing those individual groups. So I'm going to go back to the main window using my screen set number 1, and I'm going to click on drums. Now I'm going to go back to the mixer, and I'm now going to choose to display single. And now all I'm displaying right here are the drums. Now I'm going to solo the drum bus group. I'm going to have a quick look and see what the maximum output of this group is. Yeah, okay, that's reasonable. That's about -8.3. I'm sure it will probably get more intense a bit later on. That's a good starting point. What I'll then do is I'll start to shape the individual drum parts, setting appropriate levels based on how I want to get the drums feeling and driving. Once I've done that in terms of applying EQ and compression and so on, the next thing I tend to do is add some effects to the entire drum bus. So right here I've got some plugins which I've disabled, and I just want to switch them on quickly so you can hear the difference by just adding a few simple processors to the drum bus. Of course, I haven't done anything here yet apart from leveling and a bit of panning, but by grouping things together, you can process the entire drum bus and sort of glue things together quite nicely. So let's play it back and switch things on. Okay, so by introducing these plugins on the drum bus, you can see that the output, of course, has been increased. And these are just drums. Of course, if we had everything else playing, let's in fact try that. Let's see what the overall output's going to look like then. Okay, so we're at minus 1.7 dB, and of course we're getting very close to clipping. Not forgetting we haven't introduced the vocals, the lead vocal and the background vocals, which will most certainly push this over the threshold that we don't want to go. And plus, also, we want to leave a bit of headroom for mastering, maybe about 3 decibels of headroom for mastering. So we're still a bit high in terms of our levels, but the point of this is to show you how important it is to try and work in groups, get the levels working well together within that group, and then bring them all together, always watching the master output. Then, of course, taking into account you're going to be applying effects and processing to individual parts. That's all going to add to the overall level output. So just keep that in mind. It's really important to watch your levels, especially when you're working in a big project like this.